Welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. We're going to start this morning with the water vapor satellite picture as of 10 a.m. with the surface features overlaid. And first, I want to send my condolences out to those in Joplin, Missouri that dealt with that powerful and destructive tornado. Hopefully, everyone is safe. It's a very sad and tragic event that occurred. As far as our weather pattern, we have a stationary front that is sitting up around western Pennsylvania back towards the southern mid-Atlantic. This stationary front will eventually move northeast as a warm front over the northern mid-Atlantic, which will allow the low clouds and cool conditions that are in place this morning to eventually give way to a much warmer and more humid air mass. There's currently a mid-level disturbance over the Ohio Valley that will track to the east that will eventually force this stationary front to move northeast as well. Now, as this moving east, it will continue to weaken, and the heavy rain and showers associated with this disturbance this morning will start to collapse and become more scattered by the time it reaches the northern mid-Atlantic. So I don't expect a heavy rain threat out of this disturbance because the majority of the dynamics with this disturbance will collapse by the time it reaches the coast. So that's some good news. As this warm front moves north, we'll start to see breaks in the clouds and we'll start to see a more unstable air mass set up for this afternoon. And that could produce a few isolated severe thunderstorms. However, my main concern for severe weather is going to be more for tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. We have a stationary front back over the mid-Mississippi River Valley and a cold front back down towards the southern plains. And this area low pressure that is moving towards the panhandle of Oklahoma, that is going to cut through Kansas and then head towards the Ohio Valley. And as it's doing so, it's going to force this cold front to the east and eventually reach the eastern Great Lakes and central Pennsylvania by tomorrow afternoon. As it's doing that, the air mass over the northern Atlantic will become very warm and very unstable. We're talking about temperatures for highs in the 80s. With plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, there is a significant setup for severe weather for tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Depending on the position of each disturbance, mid-level disturbance, we could be dealing with a rather impressive severe weather outbreak for tomorrow afternoon, with the potential for thunderstorms featuring very heavy downpours, frequent lightning, wind gusts over 50 miles per hour, large hail, and yes, even an isolated tornado. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this setup for tomorrow afternoon. What about the rest of the week? Well, it's not looking much better. This is the European model guidance from the Penn State eWall, and this is basically for Wednesday evening, but really it's a overview of what we can expect for this entire week. We have a high pressure system and an upper level ridge developing over the western Atlantic, and we have a trough of low pressure trying to dig down into the eastern Great Lakes back through the Mississippi River Valley. Meanwhile, disturbances continue to move in from the Pacific. What we end up with is a pattern where disturbances dive down into the southern plains, shoot up towards the eastern Great Lakes, and produces a southwesterly flow from the surface all the way up to 500 millibars along the east coast. So what does this basically mean? Well, first of all, at the lower levels of the atmosphere, we're going to have a south to southwesterly wind set up over much of the northern mid-Atlantic starting on Tuesday evening and continuing on through next weekend. And that's going to transport plenty of warm, humid air into the northern mid-Atlantic. We're looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 70s along the immediate coast, like locations like Long Island, southeastern Connecticut, and a little bit further inland, upper 70s to mid 80s. The more sunshine that develops, the higher the temperatures. Unfortunately, with a stationary cold front set up to the northwest, that's going to lead to potential for strong to severe thunderstorms each afternoon. Now, this cold front stalls out over the eastern Great Lakes and parts of central New York and central Pennsylvania because of the southwesterly flow aloft. It's basically moving along with the surface boundary, and that means that the cold front really can't move all that much because all the upper level winds are running parallel to the cold front. When that happens, the cold front stalls. And unfortunately, with the stalling cold front and waves of low pressure moving southwest to northeast, That is a recipe for a constant threat for strong to severe thunderstorms. Now, each day we're going to have to keep an eye on exactly where each mid-level disturbance within this pattern develops, because some days you'll have a better potential for severe weather over the southern mid-Atlantic, which kills the potential for the northern mid-Atlantic, and vice versa. So again, we're going to have to keep an eye on this from day to day. But the potential here is for thunderstorms each afternoon with a very warm and humid air mass in place. So if you like warm temperatures and highs in the 80s, this is your pattern. Unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with some thunderstorms each afternoon. So if you're going to the beach, use some caution and be prepared to run into your car to get away from the rain. Thank you for trusting in NYNJPA Weather as your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have an excellent day.